Hello there, Internet. In its coverage earlier this year, 60 Minutes Australia used Reykjavik Energy as an example as to why gender and equality measures were of value to the market and why scholars like Jordan B. Peterson were wrong in their take. An ongoing scandal that recently surfaced at Reykjavik Energy now has 60 Minutes' entire case blowing up in their faces. So let me read to you the Reykjavik Energy scandal timeline just to put you into the story. So September 12th, an Icelandic celebrity posts a Facebook status accusing a then unnamed CEO of a major company, also unnamed, for sexist slurs and abusive behavior against women in his company, adding that it had led to one woman being fired for bringing it up with the chief of staff, etc. He then asked whether the Me Too movement, or hashtag Me Too movement, had simply been a publicity stunt and nothing more. September 13th, ON Power, a subsidiary company owned by Reykjavik Energy, itself publicly owned, announces it had fired its CEO for inappropriate behavior following a board meeting. Those who knew the wife of said celebrity had been an employee at said company were most likely connecting the dots at that point. Later that day, the CEO of Reykjavik Energy, the parent company, comments, saying he heard of something he was unaware of and had thus summoned the board meeting that resulted in the removal of the CEO of ON Power. The departing CEO also speaks out, claiming he may have messed up and made mistakes in regard to communication, but claims he's not the perv he's made out to be. September 14th. The board of Reykjavik Energy summons a meeting, including company head. Since the company's major owner is Reykjavik Municipality, city officials are on the board as well. Following said meeting, a few headlines of politicians and elaboration on meeting conclusion are published by local mainstream media. September 15th, another follow-up from said meeting includes a statement that there's no lack of confidence in the CEO of Reykjavik Energy, Bjarni Bjarnason, the guy interviewed by 60 Minutes Australia. September 17th, media again covers a lengthy Facebook post made by the woman whose termination from her job had initially unveiled the case to the public, wherein she in detail elaborates on how Bjarnason was well aware of the matter and her side of the exchanges with him in that regard. Throughout the day, politicians express themselves, one arguing that it's only to be expected that this woman seeks justice, and another goes public about how harmful workplace culture needs to be examined. The man initially appointed as interim CEO at ON Power is removed and replaced as allegations against him also surface. He's put on leave, but as of yet, where those allegations came from and their validity hasn't been confirmed. Another female executive is then appointed for the interim. Also that day, the CEO of the parent company announces there will be no further public comment from him. A union of professional women demands a further investigation of the entire corporation. The CEO requests to step aside from his position. To add on to an already eventful day, the CFO of Reykjavik Energy, the parent company, releases a memo he'd received 3 years prior for improper sexual conduct during a company social event, which he had regretted ever since and been in rehab for drinking problems and other issues. September 18th, chairwoman of the RE board, Reykjavik Energy board, announces a request for an investigation filed with Reykjavik City's internal investigation that is heavily challenged by several city council members, as it might be a conflict of interest since the company is owned by the city itself. Rumors also arise that some employees of Reykjavik Energy had repeatedly solicited the mayor himself for help to address this, potentially making him a subject of the investigation as well. Mayor also releases a statement the same day saying the city will address this upon a completed investigation. The mayor stresses the importance of there being trust and confidence in the investigation, but makes no comment as to the claims that he knew about it. Whether that is because his statement was released prior to those rumors remains unknown, but no further comment from him has been released since. September 19th. A board meeting grants the CEO's wish to step aside, and it's announced that his affairs will also be examined. A woman who had previously served on the board is hired as an interim CEO for Reykjavik Energy, the parent company that is, for a duration of 2 months while investigations take place, which is expected to conclude its work in no less than 2 months. Further, city authorities announced they'll be discussing the matter the following day. September 20th. City council members stressed that they received multiple tips from current and former employees of the Reykjavik Energy Corporation, with one stressing that the turnover of staff is alarming. The city concludes that it will see this through. September 21st. Newly appointed interim CEO announces that she'll assume her position on the following Monday, and that one of her aims is to meet with the woman whose termination started the whole matter and hear her out within her first week on the job. September 24th. Interim CEO reports from her first day at work that in spite of recent hardship, she finds positive atmosphere among workers to get to the bottom of things and improve the work climate, and that there is passion for the company. September 25th. Another social media post from the family of the woman whose dismissal or termination brought the case to public discourse, prompting that no one had, as of yet, gotten in touch with her, as the new interim CEO had stated as a priority aim. September 26th. The municipality of Akranes, a minor shareholder in Reykjavik Energy, releases a statement. They say the reputation of the company has suffered and that its trust must be restored. They urge everyone involved to aid the investigation and efforts to restore the workplace culture. September 27th. Meeting between the interim CEO and the woman first mentioned, slated and announced. Later that day, a statement confirmed the meeting had taken place between the interim CEO of Reykjavik Energy and the woman in mention, their lawyers, and the interim CEO of ON Power, the subsidiary company for which the woman led a department and was fired from. October 2nd, interim CEO announces that to aid the internal affairs team of Reykjavik City, which also serves as internal affairs for its majority-owned companies, experts from academia will be solicited to join the investigation into the corporation's workplace culture. A side note from myself, this surely prompts the question on top of the potential conflicts of interest with the internal affairs team of the company's owner being hired, as many will question which experts and based on what alleged experience they're picked. A group of sociologists or gender studies professors will hardly serve to build trust in the current climate of social discourse. And yes, there are a lot of other things going on in the current climate of social discourse in regards to gender affairs, and I will probably document some of that as we move along. The bottom line here is that we're talking about a publicly owned corporation within an industry that is largely centered around what many economists would argue to be a natural monopoly. We're talking an energy company, pardon my speech. This corporation has spent 2 decades and copious amounts of resources on gender and equality affairs, been hailed and triumphed for its successes. Its leadership hasn't done poorly at self-congratulation, to a point wherein they attribute these means to a lot of the corporation's recent successes, overlooking the fact that the corporation has the power to dictate prices on the market and has raised them higher than the consumer price index has grown in the post-08 era. And further on that, you'll see in my previous video on the matter with this entire 60 Minutes Australia report. where I go into detail about Reykjavik Energy over the past years. At any rate, this, from my perspective, is not just a scandal. It's a blatantly obvious testimony to the failure of gender politics and its aims, means, and tools to affect the economy, industry, and markets. If this utter and complete deterioration of an entire corporation and the simmering conflicts and tension that went covered for months, if not years, is the result that people paid vicious amounts of money for, then yes, it is the definition of utter failure. Dr. Peterson's predictions may have come true a lot faster than he anticipated. As he said, this would probably collapse within, what, if I'm not mistaken, I think he said 10 or 20 years in the 60 Minutes interview. But obviously, this is collapsing like pretty sinister bomb already at this point. And this is going to be an ongoing dilemma. And quite frankly, if you ask me, I think restoring trust at this point is going to be a very, very much of an uphill battle for anyone who attempts it. Also, the integrity of the investigation and how it's performed, I think it's going to be very, very difficult to get a consensus on the legitimacy of that. And it's going to be a very, very tricky investigation to execute. Also, I think we should definitely demand, on top of that, a further investigation into exactly how much resources have been spent on the whole egalitarian agenda of the company that has obviously blown up in everyone's faces. Because that's going to matter, and especially in regard to its future aims and operational costs, sustainability, etc. Anyways, this is it for now. This is all what I have today, and any news updates or further twists and turns, I'll try my best to stay on top of that and keep you guys posted. For now, Viking out.